Hi children, I hope everyone had gone through the previous topic. Last class we had studied about the terms meteoroids, meteors and meteorites. What is meteoroid? Meteoroids are the small, rocky, irregular heavenly bodies that revolves around the sun. The scientists believed that the meteoroids are the leftover rocks during the formation of the solar system. Then we discussed about the meteors. Meteors are also called the shooting star and meteors are what is the speciality of meteors? And meteors it is burned completely before entering the earth atmosphere. We had studied about the meteorites also. So what is meteorites? Meteorites is what is the speciality of meteorites? Meteorites is do not burn completely before entering the earth atmosphere. The meteorites it is do not burn completely before entering the earth atmosphere. All of you clear about this topics? Yes, then we can see the differences between the meteors and the meteorites. Meteors and meteorites. First topic, the meteors burn completely before entering the atmosphere. Entering the earth atmosphere. So, about the meteors, what is the speciality of meteorites? It do not burn completely before entering the atmosphere. Earth atmosphere. First point is the meteors it burn completely before entering the earth atmosphere. Then what is the speciality of meteorites? Meteorites it do not burn completely before entering the earth atmosphere. Then next we can study about the meteors, about the size of meteors. The meteors it is small one, small heavenly body. So what is the speciality of meteorites? It is bigger. Meteors are big. Big heavenly body. Okay, so the meteors is small heavenly body and the meteorites is the big heavenly bodies. And we can discuss our next differences. It is the meteors. It is, what is the speciality of meteors? Meteors do not make any damages. Do not make any damages. Any damages. But the meteorites, it makes large damages. Meteorites, it makes large damages because the meteors, it is burned completely before entering the earth atmosphere. But in the case of meteorites, it do not burn completely before entering the earth atmosphere. So it is make larger damages here in the earth atmosphere. But in the case of meteors, it is do not make any damages in the earth atmosphere. So what are the topics we are what are the different points we are discussed? So the meteors burn completely before entering the earth atmosphere. The meteorites, it do not burn completely before entering the earth atmosphere. The size of the meteors, it is small heavenly body. But in the case of meteorites, it is big in size. It is the big heavenly bodies. And the meteors, it do not make any damages. But in the case of meteorites, it makes large damages. All of you understood about the differences between the meteors and the meteorites? Yes, I will say again, the meteors burn completely before entering the earth atmosphere. And the meteorites, it do not burn completely before entering the atmosphere. Then second point, the meteors, it is the small heavenly body. The size of the meteors it is small, but in the case of meteorites, it is a big heavenly body. The size of the meteorite, it is big. And the meteors, it do not make any damages because it is burned completely before entering the earth atmosphere. But in the case of meteorites, it makes large damages. Because why? What is the reason? It do not burn completely before entering the earth atmosphere. Then I will repeat again, the meteors burn completely before entering the earth atmosphere, and it is the small heavenly body, and meteors, it do not make any damages. But in the case of meteorites, it do not burn completely. It do not burn completely before entering the earth's atmosphere. And it is the big heavenly body. It makes large damages. Our next topic is asteroids. Asteroids are the small, irregular heavenly bodies of rocks and metals. Asteroids are the small, irregular heavenly bodies of rocks and metals. Asteroids are the small, irregular heavenly bodies of rocks and metals. The asteroids are the small, irregular heavenly bodies of rocks and metals. Our next point, it revolves around the sun. Okay, it revolves around the sun. It revolves around the sun in the gap between the orbit of Mars and Jupiter. Mars and Jupiter. The asteroids are the small, irregular, heavenly bodies of rocks and metals, and it revolves around the Sun in the gap between the orbit of Mars and Jupiter. The asteroids are the small, irregular, heavenly bodies of rocks and metals, and it revolves around the Sun in the gap between the orbit of Mars and Jupiter. The asteroids are the small, irregular, heavenly bodies of rocks and metals, and it revolves around the Sun in the gap between the orbit of Mars and Jupiter. All of you clear about asteroids? Our next topic is comets. Comets. Comets are the small bodies of ice and dust. Comets are the small bodies of ice and dust. The comets are the small body of ice and dust, and it is revolved around the Sun. Revolves around the Sun. The comet, it is the small body of ice and dust, and it revolves around the Sun. The comet, it is the small body of ice and dust, and it revolves around the Sun. When it approaches the Sun, it heats up and relieves behind a stream of hot and dust particles. And as we can see, after some times we can see as a tail behind the comet. Okay, and then the example of the comet is Halley's comet. Example of a comet is Halley's comet. Halley's comet. The English astronomer Edmund Halley is discovered it. The English astronomer Edmund Halley is discovered it. Okay. The comet is the small body of ice and dust. It revolves around the Sun. The comet, it is the small body of ice and dust, and it revolves around the Sun. So, the example of the comet is Halley's comet. Comets are the small body of ice and dust. It revolves around the Sun, and the example of the comet is Halley's comet. The English astronomer Edmund Halley is discovered this comet. Students, all of you clear the concepts. You read your textbook thoroughly, and you will get your question answers through that WhatsApp. You read your textbook page number 115 to 117. Okay. Thank you children. Have a nice day.